Hi everyone, I am Varvara.
And I'm Michael.
And we both directed Shakespeare Frankfurt's production of
Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Now it's our 13th collaboration, our 13th theater project. Mostly we've worked on stage, and this is our directorial debut. In the past years, I would more and more think of the idea: what if I directed something? How would I stage it? How would I do this or that? And I was browsing a couple of plays which would be interesting to me, which would speak to me. And Julius Caesar was one of those plays. I always liked it, and I like political dramas, political thrillers. And I think I was watching House of Cards or something at the time, and I thought, hey, there are actually traces of Julius Caesar in there, and I thought this would be an interesting play to work on and to put into a modern political world.
You were having ice cream outside one afternoon, and Michael brought up the idea of, perhaps co-directing or co-producing a political thriller. And he brought up Julius Caesar. And at first I was a little bit skeptical of the idea because, well, the uncut version of it is a very long play, introducing more than 30 characters, and I was thinking at the time that it would be probably impossible to stage with Shakespeare Frankfurt, but then
we gave it a try, we gave it a shot. And I mean, the other reason why I wanted to do it was I was looking for an interesting character that I would like to play, and I thought Brutus is an interesting one because he's very multi-layered. He's not a clear hero and he's not a villain. He's something in between, and he has an interesting development. I really, really like this character, but it was clear that I couldn't play Brutus and direct it at the same time. It's impossible. So it was very clear from the very beginning. It only works if there's another person, and that's how this whole thing started in a way.
I think pretty fast we narrowed down our options to basically one of the two having, let's say, a larger role, an acting role in the production, and the other one having more the in charge of the rehearsal process. Because I think if both of us would have major roles in the play and also direct with our inexperience in directing, it would make it very stressful and almost impossible to do.
So you need the outside perspective.
We need the outside perspective, and so that's why we decided that I would be in charge of the rehearsal process, and Michael would be playing Brutus and also be in charge of the sound and music for the play. Actually, Antonia, you will be coming on platform 7. Because then Caesar comes down and he greets you separately. Okay.
Wow. You start so early too.
We discussed the idea with our artistic director PJ Escobio and the chairman of the Verein, Jim Federplace, and we just brought them the idea. They were very supportive. And then we went for it. But then, obviously, having already planned a season, the season's productions from before that slot and after, we had to keep that project very streamlined when it comes to resources, actors involved, and also the timeline of rehearsals and shows. So this project is a little bit smaller.
You already said that if you do the whole thing, you have like, I don't know, 3 hour, 4 hour play, as we often have when we deal with Shakespeare. And we both didn't want such a big epic thing, but we wanted to make it, to tell it in like 2 hours if possible.
And also we wanted to focus on the conspiracy part of Julius Caesar, so the events that lead up to Julius Caesar's murder and the aftermath with the funeral speeches, and what comes afterwards with the war is just the result of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very strangely structured, this play. You have this very straightforward plot that follows up until the murder of Caesar and the big speeches, and then you have all this post-murder action, this war stuff, which is a bit more tricky to stage anyhow, and you have all these other different characters coming along. We started working on the script, or I started doing the first cuts when I got COVID in July 22, and it was still the time when you couldn't leave the house, where you had to be in quarantine for like 10 days or something. And I didn't feel that bad, so I started working on the script. And one thing was we wanted to keep it relatively short. And the other thing was we wanted to make it as easy, understandable, as accessible as possible. So we got rid of all these references that may be difficult to get for a modern audience.
Our goal was to keep this project smaller, to not have a very big production, to have a smaller cast. So that is why also the cuts were necessary to accommodate having a cast of 8 actors doing the whole play without alternating a lot of roles.
I mean, we were basically reading the play and thinking, okay, how many people do you need minimum to make this work? And originally we wanted to do it with 7 actors, because originally Barbara was also supposed to play Portia.
Yeah, we were having like different ideas, and I think we were highly underestimating
a little bit.
Work that is required to act and direct on the same time.
As you said, we didn't want to have like 10 different roles played by one person, because that could get easily confusing. And so we would reassign some of the lines. And as often with Shakespeare, like there are characters who suddenly, in the original play, who suddenly disappear, and then they're gone. Like all the senators, all the conspirators in the second half, they don't appear in the play anymore.
And or you have the messengers, messenger A comes in, says 2 lines, then they leave, and then another messenger comes in and says another line. So we decided to cut those parts. On the same time, we were very, very, very careful to keep the story, to not alternate from the text and the story that's been told, and obviously to keep all the iconic speeches.
We merged some of the characters, right?
Basically, the characters of Casca and Metellus Simba at the second half of the play are a consolidation
of all the soldiers.
Of all the soldiers and generals and messengers that come in the second half of the play.
Yeah, and the other idea that we had was, because we were putting this into a modern world where we're using phones as communication devices, that we could pre-record some voices in advance. So for smaller messenger roles, we had these pre-recorded phone calls, which was great because this way we could even use some former ensemble members who don't even live in Germany anymore, live in the States and in Ireland.
Vouchsafe good morrow from a feeble tongue.
Oh, what a time that you chose out, brave Caius, which you were not sick.
I am not sick, if Brutus have in hand any exploit worthy the name of honor.
Such an exploit have I in hand, Agarius. Had you a healthful ear to hear of it?
By all the gods that Romans bow before, I here discard my sickness. What's to do?
So that was the one thing, and then we had the idea with the newscasts.
We interrupt this broadcast for breaking news. We can't tell exactly what has happened yet, but there is a great commotion outside the Capitol, and it seems that some sort of calamity has just occurred. Lots of people are running away screaming, while some are standing paralyzed by shock. Julius Caesar seems to be lying motionless on the floor. We're still waiting for confirmation, but all signs point to an assassination attempt on Julius Caesar.
They do several things. They help to create this modern world of politics and news. On the one hand, they fill the gaps that we created by some of the cuts. They are sort of a summary at sometimes that explain again what happened, so you can understand who's against whom, which are the different parties. And they helped for us to maybe facilitate some changes backstage and stuff to win some time.
But for me, the newscast is almost like the ninth actor in the play, the narrator. Basically, that takes all the pieces and glues them together.
A violent thunderstorm has suddenly hit the city of Rome. Meteorologists are baffled, as forecasts for this week had pointed to blue skies and sunshine.
And we decided to do this in modern English language, so not like a fake created Shakespearean language. And we used our ensemble member, Leanne Maxon, who's also a voice artist. So she played this like American news reporter character, which worked very well, I think. But in the end, I think we only cut it's not that much. I think it's maybe 25 to 30%. I didn't really count the lines.
At some points, I think we put back in text because, or some lines that at the beginning they were cut, and then we said, okay, no, in order to that to work, we need this piece of information, because Shakespeare is also very good of actually making it quite difficult to take text out and still make sense and still have a storyline and the arc for the characters. So you have to be very, very, very extremely careful of where the cuts are made. So the story is still being kept. So we have been working on the script for
2 or 3 months or so.
So it was quite some work.
We approached the people. We didn't have like an auditioning process.
Normally
or
with
something.
Shakespeare Frankfurt, we would have a casting process, an audition process, but because it was our first directing attempt, we wanted to make sure that we have actors in the project that we have worked together before, that we have a good connection,
that know Shakespeare,
they can master Shakespeare's text, that they have experience,
reliable,
and that we have worked together very well in the past. We made it a little bit easier for ourselves. And
we thought it would be good to have a woman as playing the character of Cassius, because that would allow an interesting dynamic with Brutus and Cassius.
I think placing the play in the modern time allowed us to be more flexible with the casting when it comes to gender. And we wouldn't have necessarily that choice if we were placing the play in the historical context of ancient Rome. Bringing it into the modern times, obviously we have female politicians. Also, we found it unnecessary to change the name of Cassius to Cassia, because a female actor is playing the role, and the same we kept with the role of Octavius. I played Octavius. We didn't change the name to Octavia. We didn't think that was necessary, but we thought it was important to incorporate more female characters in the play.
So we were very pleased when Antonia Görger said she would love to play the character of Cassius, and she did an amazing job.
And this man is now become a god.
And then we have PJ Scobio, who's usually directing the plays of Shakespeare Frankfurt.
I think it was a great opportunity for PJ to be involved in one of Shakespeare Frankfurt's productions as an actor and not as a director carrying the whole responsibility of a project on his shoulders. So I'm very glad that we got the chance to work this way, a little bit to change that dynamic. It was a lot of fun.
If you have heard what I can say,
come up there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah.
Let him come until you're here.
And he also took the role of the fight director and would stage the very important stabbing scene of Caesar and develop the choreography there.
Yeah.
And then we have Jonathan Roth playing the character of Mark Antony, and it's actually not the first time they plays this character.
No, he's by now typecast, I think, that role, because he played Antony in Antony and Cleopatra, which we produced last season at the ITF. So yes, I think by now Jonathan and Antony have become one.
And it's not an easy character to play in this piece, because he's there in the first half saying like one or two lines, and then the moment Caesar dies, he suddenly has these big speeches and these big monologues. So also quite challenging for an actor, and he did a terrific job.
He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Take the center and not be so close to the front.
Okay.
And then we have Keith Wilson as Senator Casca.
Keith gave Casca a whole other level. We consolidated some of the secondary roles of senators and then generals during the wartime under the role of Casca, and that gave Keith the opportunity to create a full-on character with an amazing journey. And what is your expectation, let's say, after the murder? You get him now.
I'm free. I'm free of all this.
Are you free of him?
Yeah, I'm free of all of it. Now I have time to do what I want to do, what I can do. I can start to make moves for me. I can play another chess game.
Okay.
I can play another game now.
And he also brought a little bit of humor into this play, which doesn't have much humor. And then we have Patrick Joyce playing two different characters. Actually, there were only two cases where we had now two actors playing two distinctive different roles. You playing Octavius and Calpurnia, and Patrick playing the soothsayer and Metallisimba, who's another one of the conspirators. He used his voice to create two completely different characters.
The Ides of March are come.
Aye, Caesar, but not gone. Read the schedule. Read it, great Caesar. Do not delay, Caesar. Read it instantly.
What, is this fellow mad?
Most high, most mighty, and most puissant Caesar, Metallisimba throws before thy seat an humble heart.
And again, was able to create a character with a whole development, because he's also in the second half, which usually isn't the case in the original play.
Knowest thou any harms intended towards him?
We got Susanna Mauer as actress number 8 at a later point, thankfully, because it gave you more opportunity to focus on
Directing from the outside.
I grant I am a woman, but withal a woman that Lord Brutus took to wife. I grant I am a woman, but withal a woman well reputed, Cato's daughter. Think you I am no stronger than my sex, being so fathered and so husbanded?
Yeah, we were very happy that Susanna was then on board playing the character of Portia, and she did a lovely, wonderful job. We not only approached the potential cast, but we also gathered our team together, the people who would help us backstage, and that was very, very important for us doing it the first time and having, also being in the play. So we really needed a good team that we could trust and that would help us. There's our assistant director, Christina Paraschiv.
Our sound operator throughout the shows. She also did props. She's a woman of many talents. It was great to have her in the room as well, to be our eyes basically when we were both in scenes.
Then there is Zara Omairan,
our assistant
stage manager,
another multi-talented woman. She's everywhere backstage, helping with costumes and setting up props. Also, she's on stage as one of the conspirators in one of the scenes. She's also at the first scene of the play, at the lobby, as the commoner. Sarah has helped us so much in this process, and as well with the pre-show preparation.
And then there is Connor Doyle, who is also a stagehand, helping us with setting up the platforms, which are really, really heavy. But he's also in the first scene of the play as the character of Flavius. We decided to put the first scene of the play into the theater lobby. It's like a little prologue sort of thing. And he's the perfect actor for that, because he's also a stand-up comedian, so he knows how to talk to the people and yell at them, and I think it's a very good start into
a very energetic start. So when it comes to the staging of the play, we decided to have 7 platforms on stage, create a corridor between the audience that connects the stage with the house doors, and nothing else. We have very few props, we have very few costume changes, and the focus is on the acting on stage and also the interplay with sound and light.
It's sort of a very abstract setting in a way, and that too, we decided very early on that we want to do it that way and not have like a single chair standing there where someone sits on, or a single piece of furniture, but it's really just these platforms that allow different levels, different statures of the characters, and very interesting tableaus of people.
So basically every scene is a series of tableaus, and that gives the focus on the actors and not the set, because the set is the actors on stage and their positions on the stage.
Because we had this minimalist stage, it was clear that we needed a good light and a good sound design to create atmosphere, to help to create this world. And we got a fantastic light designer, Thomas Rösener,
being with us for a couple of rehearsals.
Yeah, like 2 days or so.
2 rehearsals, and then he was just 2.5 days at the theater with us. Yeah, we managed in just a short time to create actually what we wanted when it comes to the end result of light and sound.
And I was responsible for the sound design and for editing the music, and both was also very important to create this atmosphere, to create this world. And I tried to prepare them early on in the process so we could use them during rehearsals, so the actors would already get a feeling for the timing and the atmosphere.
What means the shouting? I do fear the people choose Caesar for their king.
Aye, do you fear it? Then must I think you would not have it so?
I would not, Cassius, yet I love him well.
We had our first read-through in August, and then we started rehearsals on the 31st of October. We rehearsed up to 20th of December, then we took a Christmas break and picked up rehearsals again, I think around 7th, 8th of January, and we had our premiere on the 9th of February. We had an overall of around 100 hours of rehearsal time before we moved to the theater. At the theater we had few rehearsals up to beginning of February, but mostly we rehearse.
At the Amt für multikulturelle Angelegenheiten, which was interesting because they have these very bare rooms. We marked on the floor with tape our platforms, our different levels, so we didn't have the levels during most of the rehearsals.
We just had a flat ground and we had to imagine the levels.
It required a lot of imagination by the actors.
And the moment that the recognition happens is you, umbrellas off.
Okay.
But it worked well, and then when we went to the theater and were able to work with the platforms for the first time, that was really like, oh wow, this was so great to now finally see what we only had in our heads for
2-3 months.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we had like a couple of rehearsals in the theater, and also the tech and all that. We worked in the Internationales Theater Frankfurt.
Go from the start, you there, you disappear. Kafka in the middle.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone from the team of Internationales Theater has been incredibly supportive and helpful. ITF has been our home for the last years when it comes to our fall and winter productions, and we are very extremely happy that we have found a place that we can bring our creative ideas and get support for them.
We decided to create some promotional material, including a trailer, where we would already mix the worlds of Shakespeare and the modern political world. And we wanted to put together this fake TV newscast.
After Caesar's newest victory, the voices are growing louder to crown him king, and on the streets, one quickly picks up on the rumor that the crown could be offered to him as early as today.
Again, we used Leanne Maxon as our TV reporter, and we thought, because there was the Museumsuferfest happening in August, that there were a lot of people out there, so it looks like these are the people waiting for Caesar to arrive. So we shot the scenes with Leanne in August, where it was warm and sunny, but all the rest of the actors in November, when it was cold and rainy in front of Amka.
Okay, code off, yeah?
Code off.
Can you? Thank you.
But it actually worked quite well to put this together. But yeah, that was a fun shoot.
Mrs. Brutus, your husband. Sorry, is it?
Yeah.
Because if it's silly if I hold a microphone on her and
no, you hold it to yourself and then you. Yeah.
Mrs. Brutus, your husband is one of Caesar's closest advisors and friends. Does he ever talk to you about political affairs or what's going on in the capital?
No, he keeps that to himself. Sometimes I worry about him when I see him brooding or I see that something's bothering him. And then I would like to help. But he won't let me.
As we mentioned before, it was important to us to make it very accessible and understandable, because often people are a little bit afraid of Shakespeare and of the language. It's quite difficult, and we were very happy that we could even make a matinee for like 120 students, and also in the evening shows a lot of groups of students would come. And we really hope that that they got excited about Shakespeare, about theater
in general.
And that they could relate to the story, understand the story, and
this is actually also part of our goals at Shakespeare Frankfurt, to bring young people into the theater, to love theater and go to theater and enjoy theater.
Well, Julius Caesar spoke to me as a play, and I got a lot of ideas when I read it from the very beginning. And of course, not every play has that same effect. And so I may do it again, but it has to be like that. It has to immediately catch my attention and give me some ideas. And of course, it would have to be with you. Obviously.
Of course, yeah. We've become now a directing duo.
It worked very well.
It worked very well, yeah.
We split up responsibilities, and it was perfect because we can rely on each other.
Yeah, it was important to have a clear division of labor, and also to have trust in one another and support one another, but also compromise and talk about what we want to do, what we want to achieve, be open.
We have things to publish and stuff, but we have a plan. I'm very happy.
And we were also very lucky to be supported by such a great cast and crew that they trusted us and they helped us so much to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, actually.
So under these circumstances, we would do it again, immediately, like that.
Give us a project.
Yeah.
But it has to speak to us.
It has to speak to us in English, Greek, and German. Or
sure.
At least
one language would do.
All right, you have 2 more chances to see this show. Friday, April 21st.
And Saturday, April 22nd.
At the International... Sorry. Again.
Okay, so let's practice. Right. We say...
You say the Saturday, and then
we say...
Both at the same...
Yeah, let's say at the same time.
At 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. at Internationales Theater Frankfurt.
Okay.
And you say get your
tickets now.
And I say
Bye.
now.
Now? Okay. Also get your tickets now. Bye.
Bye.
All right. All right, you have 2 more chances to see this show. On Friday, April 21st.
And Saturday, April 22nd.
At 8 p.m. at the Internationales Theater Frankfurt. Get your tickets
now.
Bye.
Bye.